Hello, welcome back. So in the previous part, we have discussed about the concept of stress, and there we have seen there are basically two main component of the resultant force, that is uh, the normal force and the shear force. And normal force will generate the normal stress, and shear force will generate the shear stress. So here we are going to discuss some more information about the shear stress. So first, we will try to understand shear stress more. So with this example here, you can see there is a bar and it is subjected to this force F, and this force F is trying to slide down some portion of this bar, and because of this effect of this force, there will be some force which will develop at face AB and at face CD. So if we draw the free body diagram of this portion, so it will look something like this. So at face AB and CD, there will be two force generated because of the effect of this force, and they will be of equal magnitude. So this force, because it is acting parallel to this surface, so this force will be termed as shear force. And the distribution of this shear force over the whole cross-sectional area, it may not be uniform, but for the design purpose, what we do is we assume the distribution as uniform, and therefore the intensity of this shear force is termed as tau avg, which is average shear stress. So as you can see, average shear stress is distributed on the whole cross sectional area uniformly. So therefore the tau average, which is average shear stress, can be calculated as force upon cross sectional area. So the force here is V, which is shear force, and A is the area of cross section, which means this area. So if this is say D and if this is B, so the area of cross section becomes B into D. So that is average shear stress. So we can have some more example. Uh, there are various applications. I mean, the shear stress will have a wide application in various forms. So for example, if we take an example of this case, so here you can see there are two plates which are joined using the bolt. So these plate may be subjected to the pull force, which is say F, and because of this pull force, this bolt will also be subjected to some kind of force, and that force will be shear force. So if we try to draw the free body diagram of this bolt subjected to uh, this force, so then we will be able to identify that this bolt is actually subjected to shear force. So here you can see uh, the section, this one, this bolt will be breaking at this section. So half of the portion is trying to slide on left to right, and half of the portion of this bolt is trying to slide right to left. So ultimately it will break at section EE. So ultimately what is happening, the force is acting at this cross section, and as you can see this force is parallel to this cross section. So therefore force F will be considered as shear force for this bolt because it will be breaking at EE. So here the shear force at the point where it will be breaking, it will be termed as P, which is equivalent to F. Similarly, if we consider the second case, so in this case you can see uh, in this there is only two plates, and they are actually using the cross section of bolt only once, because so this force is actually using this cross section only once. But in this case, this joint will be termed as double cover butt joint. So these are the two main plates which are to be joined, and these 2 points are two plates are joined using the two bolts. And now here again you can see these plates are subjected to force F, and because of this force, how this force will be transferred to the bolt. So for that we can have the free body diagram of the bolts again. And this time you can see the bolt is subjected to the shear force at two cross section point. So one is at this cross section point and the second is at this cross section point. So in this case, what is happening is we are able to, the force is acting at two cross section, and which means we are able to use this bolt twice. So that is why the strength of, strength can be better utilized in case of bolt subjected to double shear. So in this case, only one plane is subjected to shear. So therefore, this will be known as bolt subjected to single shear force or single shear plane. And in this case, we are able to, the bolt is subjected to the shear force at two location. So therefore, the bolt will be termed as bolt subjected to double shear. So now we will discuss some more concepts of the shear stress. And in this, a very important concept is shear stress equilibrium. So we will understand this concept with the help of example. For example, in this case, there is a block which is subjected to a shear force V. So again, you can see this shear force V is parallel to the cross section or parallel to the plane of the plane. So here, if we consider an element and if we want to see the behavior of this force on that element, so obviously there will be, we can represent this force on the element like this. So shear force on this differential element, or basically shear stress on this differential element, can be represented as tau zy. So zy is basically the zy plane. So here also, because of this, so on whole four plane, there will be some shear stress. So as here it is tau zy, this will be tau zy in the opposite direction, because if this is the force acting like this, and if it is fixed from bottom, so it will also offer the reaction which is equal and opposite. So because of this reaction, there will be this shear stress. And similarly, on these two faces, there will be shear stress as well. And these shear stress are basically the complementary shear stress. Now, if we want to find the shear force on this area, we can do so. So here we can find the stress over this whole area. So that will be tau zy multiplied by the area of cross section. So that becomes shear force on zy plane. Similarly, here also, this will be total shear force on this cross section area. And this will be the total shear force acting on this cross sectional area. And this will be the total shear force acting on this cross sectional area. Now, if we apply the equilibrium equation on this free body diagram, so if we apply the first equilibrium equation along the y direction, so along the y direction, how many forces are there? So along the y direction, one force is tau zy, and the second one is tau zy, delta x, delta y. Now, why we are applying this? Because we want to know what will be the magnitude on this surface, on this surface, on this surface, and on this surface. So is tau zy is equals to tau dash zy. So that is what we want to know. Similarly, is tau yz is equal to tau dash yz. So we want to verify it by applying the equilibrium equation. So first we will apply the equilibrium equation along the y direction. So along the y direction, we have two forces. One is this one and the second one is this one. So if we use the sign convention as left right as positive and right to left as negative, so this force will be positive and this force will be negative. So if we apply this here, so here it becomes stress multiplied by area, that becomes the force. So force, so you can see this one is positive and this one is negative. So ultimately, solving this equation, we find that tau zy is equals to tau dash zy. Similarly, if we want to find out, if we apply equilibrium equation along the z direction, so in the same manner, we will have tau yz will be equals to tau yz. So here you can see along the z direction, we will have this force and this force. So sorry, this one and this one. So they will also yield the same result, which means tau yz will be equals to tau yz dash. Now, similarly, if we want to apply the moment equation, because that is the third equilibrium equation. So if we want to apply moment about x-axis, so in this case, you can see if we apply moment about this axis, so moment due to this force and this force will be zero because their line of action will be passing through this axis. But moment of this force and moment of this force will be having some magnitude. So here again, I am assuming here this one. So moment of this force about this x-axis will be this multiplied by perpendicular distance. So distance of this force from x-axis, it will be this distance. So this distance is delta z. Similarly, the moment of this force about z-axis. So this force multiplied by, so the distance is delta y. So now this force multiplied by delta y and this force multiplied by delta z. So applying this equation, we have this. So summation of moment about x-axis. So the first force, which means this one. So again, we will assume that this moment, which is clockwise, it will be positive, and this moment, which, sorry, yes, this moment is clockwise and sorry, this moment is anti-clockwise. So clockwise moment will be positive and anti-clockwise moment will be negative. So here this force is creating clockwise moment about x-axis. Similarly, this force is creating anti-clockwise moment. So here tau yz delta x into delta z multiplied by delta y. So this one will create, actually it will be actually negative and this will be positive. This will be positive. So tau zy into delta x into delta y into delta z, it will be positive force and it will be negative. So solving this, we get that tau zy will be equals to tau yz. So ultimately, we can say that tau zy is equal to tau zy dash, tau is equals to tau yz equals to tau dash yz. So ultimately, all four stress component, which means this one, and this one, and this one, all four components are equal, and we can represent them with a single tau. So we can prove that on all four faces. When a shear force is acting on a plane, and if we want to analyze a particular element, so the element will be subjected to the same shear stress along the whole four faces, this face, and this face, and this face. So all four faces will have same magnitude of the shear stress. And this property of shear stress is known as complementary property of shear. So this complementary property of shear means shear element is subjected to pure shear. Now talking about the next type of shear stress, which is, not shear stress, it is again a type of stress which is called bearing stress. So bearing stress is I mean, when there are two bodies which are pressed against each other, then compressive force will develop on the area of contact. So for example, if one force is like this and the second force is like this, so you can see on this body, two forces are pressed at each other. So at the point of contact, there will be a pressure which will be known as bearing pressure. Bearing pressure. When there is a beam and if it is supported on a support, so if there are forces like this, it will offer reaction like this. So ultimately, these forces will have bearing stress at this point where they are acting. So this kind of pressure is known as bearing stress. So here in this case, if we again take the example of this plate connecting with a rivet. So if uh, it is connected with a rivet or a bolt, so in that case, we have seen that this section is subjected to shear, but but at this point, this section, this line is also subjected to some kind of force. So here the force may be acting at this surface also. Similarly, this force will be acting on this surface. So this surface on which this force is acting, it is actually pressing each other like this. So as you can see, this bolt will be in this hole, and this bolt will actually press the hole like this because of this force. And similarly, because of this force, it will be pressing like this. So this hole will actually be under the effect of stress, which is called the bearing stress. And the distribution of this bearing stress is not uniform. Again, you can see at the center, it will be maximum, and at these edges, it will be minimum. Now, in this, we have to see which one, which area will be under consideration for calculating the bearing stress. So if we can visualize in this case, say this is the hole where the bolt will be inserted. So this bolt will press against this surface. So this surface is projected here. So ultimately, this is the area which is subjected to the bearing stress. So bearing stress, as the name suggests, stress is force upon area. So here force will be P and the area will be this one, which is T multiplied by D. So this is how we can find out the bearing stress. So it is represented as sigma B, and the magnitude can be calculated as PB upon AB, and PB is actually bearing pressure, and bearing pressure here is P. So because of this force, the bearing pressure is generated, so that is P. And similarly, the area will be this one, T into D. So that is how we can calculate the bearing stress. Now coming to another topic, that is about the deformation. So first we need to understand what is deformation. Well, deformation is when a force is applied to a body, it will tend to change the body shape and size. Obviously, when a force is subjected to a body, the body is supposed to have some changes in shape and sizes. For example, if this is a body subjected to the compressive force, then this body will tend to compress. So in this compression, the size will be changed, the shape can be changed. Now these changes which occur because of the application of the force, they are known as deformation. And they may be highly visible or practically unnoticeable depending on the material of body. So in a general sense, deformation will not be uniform throughout the body. Yes, it again dependent on the body or the material of which the body is composed of. So the changes in geometry of any line segment within the body may vary substantially along its length. Now, we will understand this with the help of an example. So here in this photo, you can see there is this body which is subjected to a tension force. So as you can see, the force is applied like this, and there are some marks which are already present here. One is along the length, and the other is along the cross section, and the third one is at some inclination. So when we stretch this body will stretch, and ultimately the marks which are already formed here. So as you can see, this vertical line will be uh, elongated. Similarly, this horizontal line is shortened, and the angle of this inclined line with respect to this vertical line, it is decreased. So how this occur? Because of the changes in the shape of this body. So this changes can be termed as deformation. Now we have discussed about the deformation. Now why we are discussing this term? Because we want to understand the concept of strain. Now to quantify this deformation, we use a parameter which is called the strain. So strain is basically a measure of deformation. So whether we want to find the change in length or the changes in the angle between the line, so we can quantify that, we can find out that change with the help of the quantity called the strain. Now strain can be measured with the help of experiment. So generally we conduct some experiment on the material, and with the help of that experiment we can find the strains. Now as till now we have discussed the effect of force in terms of normal stress, in terms of shear. So the deformation due to normal stress can be termed as can be quantified in terms of normal strain. Similarly, the deformation due to shear stress can be quantified in terms of shear strain. So first we will discuss about the normal strain. So normal strain is when a body is subjected to normal force. Now normal force can be tension force or compressive force. So here, if we take an example, in this case, this is a bar which is subjected to a normal tensile force. And because of this tensile force, it is stretched, which means the length of this body is extended to from its original position. So now if we want to measure, or if we want to quantify the change in the length, or if we want to quantify the deformation in this bar, we can do so by calculating the parameter normal strain. So normal strain, to be specific, average normal strain, because here we are talking about the average normal stress. So average normal stress will have average normal strain. So the average normal strain is L minus L naught by L naught. So this term is called change in length. Change in length. So change in length is final length minus original length. So that becomes the change in length. So change in length is actually delta. So delta length is extended. Now change in length divided by original length. So this is how we can find out the normal strain. Now what should be the unit of this strain? Well, obviously, as you can see in the denominator and numerator, it is length. So length has the same unit. So ultimately strain is dimensionless quantity, because it is basically a ratio of lengths. But sometimes what we do is we can quantify this strain in terms of micrometer per meter. So the extension or the compression of any element can be expressed as micrometer per meter length. So the effect of normal stress can be explained with the help of normal strain. Similarly, if we want to find out the deformation due to shear stress, so we can find out that with the help of this parameter shear strain. So deformation not only cause line segment to elongate or contract, but they also cause them to change the direction that we have seen in the last to last slide. So to find out this direction, we can again take an example. So here, if this body, if we mark this line, which is exactly at 90 degree, and then if we apply a shear force like this, so in that case, as you can see, this time the theta is 90 degree, and as we apply the shear force, the theta is decreasing. Or if we apply the opposite force, in that case, the theta is increasing. So what is the change in the angle? So that change in angle is basically the shear strain. So if the theta is decreasing, then we call the change in angle as lambda, which is basically calculated as 90 degree minus theta. So in this case, pi by 2 minus theta will be the lambda. And we term this as positive shear strain because it is developed because of the force, shear force, which is left to right. Similarly, the shear strain developed because of this force, which is acting right to left. Now, in this case, the lambda can be calculated as theta minus pi by 2. So this lambda is basically the shear strain, and it actually measured in the radians because this is a very small angle. So this is generally measured in the radians. So we represent shear strain by gamma, and it measured in the radians, which is again a dimensionless. So we will continue our discussion in the next part. Thank you.